During the Six-Day War, Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz, a young rabbinical student from Atlantic City, New Jersey, finds himself at the Jerusalem border, caught in the line of fire between 5 Arabic countries and the Israel Defense Forces. Here, on Sunday, June 5, 2005, for the first time, Schwartzy tells his story.
But when was their reason created that Jerusalem Day got on the Jewish calendar as a holiday? It was 1967. There used to be a program on TV when I was a kid, You Were There. Oh, this wasn't I Was There. I was a young seminarian, a yeshiva student, 22 years old, in the yeshiva, and Jerusalem Day happened. Now, I was 3 minutes walking from the Mandelbaum Gate. That time, 1967, Jerusalem was surrounded on 3 sides by the country of Jordan. A little bit of a history. In 1948, the United Nations said, okay, Israel, you have your independence. And people voted for the independence of Israel. All the Arab nations attacked Israel in 1948, and the Jews won Milchemet HaShichrur, the war of independence of the modern-day state of Israel. One tremendous, besides the pain of the lost people, even though they won the war and became the first time in 2,000 years a state with a Jewish government, and when they weren't occupied by an alien nation. The Jewish homeland was run by Jews. So, for the first time, they had this kind of almost theocratic, well, not really, but I mean, in 48. So, but they lost Jerusalem is the point. The city of Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, the ancient city of Jerusalem, it has 4,000 years of history as a Jewish nation, mentioned countless times in the Jewish Bible, not once in the Quran. This city, Jerusalem, was in Arab hands from 1948 to 1967. What does it mean in Arab hands? The Mosque of Omar is in Jewish hands, but Muslims are allowed to go there to pray. The mosque they built 800 years ago on the Temple Mount where the Holy Temple was. But even though it's under Israeli government control, they allow the Muslims to go to their mosque and pray. In 1948, when Arabs and Jews signed a truce to end the war, there was a clause in the truce that said, of course we'll let the Jews go to the holiest spot in the universe for Jews, the Holy Wall, and of course they can go there to pray. The truce was signed, the lines were drawn from 1948 to 1967. The Holy Wall was Judenrein. Judenrein is a German word. The Nazis wanted to make the world Judenrein. Rein means clean, free of Juden, of Jews. The wall should be free of Jews, Jew-free. That's what happened. I came the first time in my life in 1966 to Israel. I heard about the wall my whole life. I'm 22 years old. Take me to where can I see it? I can't go because I'm a Jew, but I could see it. Where you go? You go to the roof of a church in Jerusalem. I've never been inside a church in my life. I have no desire to. And I had to go on the roof of a church called the Dormition Abbey to look through trees to see a slice just about this big of my wall that they didn't allow Jews to go to. Okay, that was 1966. It felt very humbling, that obscenity, the lack of freedom of religion when they lied, etc. So now it's 1967, and it really all started with something called the closing of the Straits of Tiran. It was an act of war that Egypt and the Arab nations did. It was, without getting into detail, the Arabs made a preemptive move, which was a blockade, which was called an act of war by Geneva, the United Nations, etc. So there was a 6-day war because of that. Now, from the time there was the blockade, Israel gave them 2 weeks to lift it. Those 2 weeks, those 2 weeks in Hebrew, I was in Israel then, in Yeshiva, Meir Shorim. Like I said, 3 minutes from the Mendelbaum Gate, where it was Jordan and everything. The big thrill of Yeshiva boys Friday afternoon, when there's no scheduled time in Yeshiva, is to go to the Mendelbaum Gate and look at the Jordanian legionnaires dressed up in their camouflage with the guns and glaring at you. And if you take a camera, it says no cameras. You took a camera at the Mendelbaum Gate and you try to get a snap, so they get into position. They never really shot. I mean, that's a little bit much, but and we were Yeshiva boys. I mean, they understood that. What are we going to do there? So that was interesting. But bring me back to where was I? The 2 weeks of Shat Chirum. Shat Chirum means from the time of the blockade, all the 2 weeks that, even though it was an active war, Israel gave the Arab nations, lift the blockade or we will defend ourselves. 2 weeks, nothing happened. But what happened in Shat Chirum? Panic time, crisis time. I'm an American citizen. As an American citizen, when you go to Israel, any country, you go to the American embassy and give me your passport. They say, okay, you got an American citizen, but boom, here he is in Jerusalem, in the new city, let's say 1967, before the 6-day war. So now it's the blockade, panic buying. Everybody knew it can't be a long war, because Israel cannot survive a long, extended war. They don't have enough wherewithal. It's either going to be a hit or a miss here. Every war they have to win more soon than later. That's why Yom Kippur War was such a terrible bloodbath for the Jews, because Israel doesn't have that kind of resources. 6 million people as opposed to hundreds of millions of people. Just don't have it. So I bought, at that time I was smoking. I was a young, unfortunately 20-something, and I was smoking Marlboro, and I went out and I borrowed money to buy 2 cartons of Marlboro. I thought to myself, I'm a smoker. What happens if I'm in the middle of war with nothing to smoke? No cigarettes for a smoker in a war? I don't think so. So I went out and I got myself, I spent my last nickel, I borrowed money to get these 2 cartons of Marlboro. And for the 2 weeks from Shat Chirum, official time of crisis, the first thing that happened is the American embassy sent every American citizen a notice. War is imminent. Leave the country immediately. No transportation will be provided in case of emergency. Get out of town. No response, nothing. We're not going to do anything for you. Get out now. And like a week and a half later, this is when I started to think, I think there's something could be happening here. The same thing, second final notice. It's getting a little tighter here. They really mean business. So what happened was that the yeshiva in Jerusalem, the Chabad yeshiva, was going down. The older boys were going to America, to the Rebbe, and the yeshiva had a younger group, and there were no older boys to study with the younger groups, where the way it usually is, a partner off, and etc. So the Rebbe said they should send 10 older boys from Kfar Chabad Yeshiva, where I was, to be one of the mentors of the younger boys and to study mostly on their own in this yeshiva in Yerushalayim, 3 minutes from the Mendelbaum Gate, next to a building called Misar HaChinuch VaTarbut, the building of education and culture, Department of Education and Culture. Huge stone building. Don't forget, Jerusalem always has these big, thick stones. Everything in Jerusalem is made of Jerusalem stone. So it's you feel kind of secure. I mean, so from 2 weeks, we had a huge, in the back of the yeshiva building was one building. In the back was a chutzner, a big courtyard. Let's say, it was like half a football field. Let's say at least 5 times this building, 5 times this building area, open space, just ground. And since it was so close to the border, and when you're close to the border, you don't really have to know anything or have to aim anywhere. There's something, a little cannon called a mortar, M-O-R-T-A-R. You just put it right there in a little foxhole, take these little pagazim, little shells, you put them down, and these things, you don't have to, here is the Jewish part, the new city, and here is Jordan. Just line up these mortars and they lob it maybe 4 or 5 blocks, which is all you need, because you're only 3 blocks from the border, from Jordan, in 1967 Jerusalem before the war. So it was a war of mortar bombardment, and they have the edge. So there's more about that later. There was also the Vad HaYeshivot, the Council of Yeshivas. There was some difficulty in the cultural and religious factions in Israel among the indigenous people. So the department committee of the yeshiva students volunteered 500 yeshiva boys to help in the war effort, the 6-day war before. And our yeshiva was one of them. So, I mean, I don't know if I said it, but I was one of the 10 shluchim, as it were, emissaries from Kfar Chabad to this yeshiva in Jerusalem, just right after Passover. My luck, just before the 6-day war. So I'm in Jerusalem, and Sunday morning before the war was Monday. Sunday morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, Rega. I don't know what I was telling you. That 2 weeks from the blockade, the army came into our courtyard and dug 3 foxholes and put 3 mortar guns and moved in Machanet Tzava with 30 soldiers right in the courtyard of the yeshiva. Well, we are Chabad yeshiva boys, so every morning after the first study session from 7:30 to 9, before we go to daven, we went out, tefillin in hand, and we were lassoing these Israeli soldiers, pulling them in and wrapping them up to the Shema. It's much easier than in America. In Israeli, it doesn't matter what he is or he isn't. He knows Baruch. That's not a problem. He's a Jew. He'll do it. Why not? It's a Jewish thing. I mean, it doesn't have the baggage or the difficulty or the galut mentality or his demons to say, don't do that. You people are looking at it, something like that. The self-consciousness and difficulty of being a minority in a dominant culture, 1.5% of this country. So, okay, no sermon. So, where was I? Who's following? Who's listening to this conversation?
The mortars and the soldiers.
The mortars and the soldiers. So every morning for 2 weeks, we go out and we put tefillin on these guys. But Yossi, the commanding officer is a guy named Yossi HaMefaked, like His Imperial Majesty. He was a tough guy, and he was in charge of these 30 soldiers. So we went out the first morning. We thought, it's not a problem. Chabadniks, it's Israel. We're all one family. Yo, give me your sleeve. You're left to your righty. It's not no reason for philosophy or theology. It's going to be a warrior, a soldier. There's no atheist in a foxhole. Give me your left arm. No problem. There's no atheist in a foxhole. America doesn't know what war means. Never been in this country, except 9/11. That was 2 buildings. War is different. So every day, so the first day, the guy Yossi HaMefaked says, you can't do that. What's the problem? Take 5 minutes of your soldiers' time, and they can go back to what they do best. What did they do for 2 weeks? Soldiers in our backyard. Every day, all day, what do? They filled sakei chol, sandbags. That's all they did. Every day, all day. Hundreds and hundreds of sandbags. Because there's going to be a war. and sandbags go by the windows so the shrapnel from the mortar shells don't spray into the building. We had dozens of in our windows in the yeshiva. We didn't have a miklat. We didn't have a shelter from planes. No, we hopefully thought that, there's not going to be any Air Force there, because that would be difficult. So, anyway, he said, I want 2 yeshiva boys per soldier. Exercising a little authority. Okay. So one yeshiva boy did the filled bags of sand, and the other yeshiva boy put tefillin on the soldier. That's the only way. Yossi Amafaked, the commanding officer Yossi, and he was the only one in the pluga that didn't put on tefillin. Every day. He went near him, he gave you a look like he was ready for the firing squad. Okay, I'm not... he was a vicious guy. So, but he allowed us to do this 2-for-1 thing, a twofer. So we did that, and to then Sunday before the war, and I have to tell you, every Shabbat we went out there, and these guys, they have a fire going, they're smoking. I mean, it's Shabbat, hello. But we went over to them with a bottle of vodka, bypassed Yossi, he knew what's going on, really. And we put everybody a l'chaim. I mean, these are soldiers, boys, 19, 20, 21 years old, never. They're young tzutziklach, and they don't know how to have a family, they're not married, they have no children, very young boys, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. And now we're talking seriously about war. Nobody's happy here. I mean, everybody's going to do what they got to do, but if they had their drugs, I'm sure they'd rather be at Venice Beach. So meanwhile, these boys are here. Shabbos, we went out to them, and first of all, we didn't get shook that they're smoking or they're doing stuff that according to the Army regulations, in public you're not supposed to do it according to the Israeli Army rules and regs, but they did it. And they weren't observant people. Cooking, making coffee, that was the big deal. We bought them cake. We bought them a little mashka, a little l'chaim, arak, machya. He said some l'chaim, we started singing. We started singing after a few l'chaims, we started dancing. So we're dancing around this little Oneg Shabbat with the soldiers. But that was 2 Shabbos in a row. Got to meet the people, know their names, Yaakov Shachar. This guy, that guy. I'm an American, they love them, they love Americans. They just, where are you from? LA, you kidding? Hollywood? Oh, you see anybody there? What are you? Brittany, who was there? What? So it wasn't that time. But meanwhile, it was something like that. So this fateful morning, Sunday before the war, a big truck pulls up in front of the yeshiva and say, we have orders to fill the truck with yeshiva boys because we need their help for the war efforts. And the Vada Yeshivot, the committee of yeshiva boys, volunteered your yeshiva. So we got 50 guys and we got into this thing, to this like a cattle car, a huge truck. And Sunday morning, he drives us 8 o'clock in the morning to the end of Jerusalem. What does it mean like this? Let's say this stender here is Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem. Here on 3 sides, and out is the country of Jordan. So Jerusalem, the city, is surrounded on 3 sides by Jordan. What does it look like if I say a city's borders with an enemy country? Now here's the empty field, just of Jerusalem, looking towards the border with Jordan in the pre-6 Day War. There was barbed wire at the end of the field. Then let's say the equivalent of 1 block of nothing. And then was a more barbed wire, and then was deserted houses. Between the 2 barbed wires is called no man's land. Not Jews can go there, not Arabs can go there. If anybody's there, you get a good shot, you can shoot them on sight, not a problem, not an international incident, you're dead in the water. It's called no man's land. In these, so what happened is in the empty field right next to the barbed wire, which is the first sign of the border before no man's land, before Jordan, they had built a shikun, apartments, track houses, buildings full of, and people were living there. There were 400 units. And they didn't have a miklat, but they didn't have a shelter. So if you don't have a shelter and war is imminent, so the army wanted the yeshiva boys to build a trench to go zigzag. I thought it was kind of morbid when I asked, why does a trench have to go zigzag? You know why? Because if there's a direct hit, it only wipes out these 8 people, because they're in zigzags. So, okay, we learned a lot of things there. We're yeshiva boys. We don't know about digging trenches, digging ditches. They gave us stuff, and it was, let's say, till we got there and started doing it, 9 o'clock Sunday morning, and we're digging this trench, and there was one soldier for all of maybe 40, 50 guys. One soldier in uniform with a pistol. Because there's nobody, I mean, it's, you know, it's the end of the city, and that's Jordan, but it's right there really, but no one thought anything about it. About 11:30, I become aware. Now we also try to take big rocks out of the dirt so other people could shovel. Now if you do that without gloves and you're a yeshiva boy, lily right hand person, you do that for an hour, your hands start to bleed. Did you know that? I never did was a rock digger. So everybody's, the Americans at least, the hands are bleeding. And I told the guy, you know, the Faket, the soldier with us, my hands are bleeding. He said, okay. You know, he meant continue. You just, you know, yeshiva boy, you little rough, tough, cream puff American boy, now get your hands dirty again. You came finally for one morning. So we doing our thing, but at 11:30, I see that the binoculars, the army binoculars of this soldier, he was like a Mefaken officer, are being passed from one yeshiva boy to the next, and people are standing on this side of our trench, which is maybe not this high, up to your knee, let's say, if you're standing in it, and everybody's looking towards the deserted houses right after no man's land. So I stand in line, I get the binoculars, I look in, I see that on the roof of the deserted building are people looking at us with binoculars. So I told the officer, I think it's time to go for lunch. This does not bode well. You know, we are 40 guys and one pistol. It's irrelevant if there's a war or there isn't a war. Those people could just walk the 2 blocks and go bang, 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 and it doesn't matter for my mother, you know, if there is a war altogether, because it looks they're right there. So he said, no, keep doing it. It's okay, it's fine, whatever. But I don't get that. About 15 minutes later. Now, when I went to the movies, Cowboys and Indians, Cops and Robbers, and you hear a machine gun, so it's kind of cool. I mean, it has a, you know, a certain ring to it. It's exciting. You only know that when you hear it live and it's aimed at you, because then it sounds like a death rattle. It's ugly. There's a certain obscenity to it. It's very impersonal. Whoever's doing that wants to kill people he doesn't even know. You hear this, you know, in terms of musical note, my father was a cantor, it's like, in terms of sharp and flat, it's flat. In terms of music, tone, and it's quite ugly. Anyway, so the machine gun opens up on the group. We dive into this trench, and we basically, we got our nose shoving into this little hole that we dug, and the bullets, you know, every once in a while people will lift up their head and you see the bullets are close. They go over the trench and in front of the trench, and when they hit the ground, it makes like a spray. It's very interesting, and the bullet goes very fast. Anyway, so this is, and I thought to myself, no one knows we're here. We're at the end of the city of Jerusalem. The army doesn't, nobody knows we're here. They could just drive their little Jeep with the machine gun on it right up here. Because no one's answering their fire. We got 40 guys in a ditch. The guy's not doing anything with his pistol, the soldier. And after about 10 minutes of this, he would hear returning fire from the Israeli side. And then another 10 minutes go by, and it stops. Everybody stops firing. And Jeeps come from the Israeli side, and they park the equivalent of a half a block away on the field. There's soldiers, machine guns mounted on these Jeeps, but they stop like a block away, and they get down on the ground, and they crawl to where we are. And the yeshiva boys go back crawling with these guys to where the Jeep is. But nobody shot while we were crawling. So that was my first time I really heard a machine gun fired. Very interesting. And that night, Sunday night, the war was Monday morning, the next morning. That night, it was my turn to man the office. The yeshiva was taken over by Haganah Zrachut, civil defense. The civil defense of Israel took over our yeshiva building because it was a big building, and we were only a few minutes walking distance from the Mandelbaum Gate. So we went that Sunday night. So in other words, every night had to be one yeshiva boy sit in the office a whole night in case the phone rings. And now is my night. They never told you what to do in case the phone rings. So it's about 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm reading a book, I'm in the office, and I'm babysitting, it's my turn, I'm babysitting the phone. 3 o'clock in the morning in Jerusalem, it is dead silent, quiet. And I'm reading the book, and I think to myself, that's funny, I'm imagining that the phone is ringing. And then I imagine it again. And I thought, I don't believe this. On my thing, the phone has to ring. On my watch. And I thought, what happens if I don't pick up the phone? Does that mean it's not going to be a war? Maybe I won't pick up the phone. Anyway, I pick up the phone. Hello? Hello, we have a call for Shlomo Schwartz from Atlantic City, New Jersey. I said, you gotta be kidding. Who's your... It's my mama, my parents, my nephew, my sister. They're calling, you want to find out? So, yes, it's me. Can you, yes. And I put the call through. My nephew arranged a speakerphone before it said speakerphones, because now he's working for NASA, so he was a little kid, he could do that in 1967. And I told, so my father asked me, how is it there? I said, everything's fine, it's all exaggerated in the newspaper, everything's gonna be fine. So he said, do you know that Jerusalem is surrounded on 3 sides by Jordan? Why don't you go to Tel Aviv? Like Kfar Chabad, I wasn't Kfar Chabad. Chabad village is 15 minutes from Tel Aviv. That's really is not a lot of action over there. But Jerusalem's on the border. So I actually at that time did not know that Jerusalem was surrounded on 3 sides by Tel Aviv. And the truth is we were sent by the Rebbe as shluchim, to help out in the yeshiva. I didn't feel, none of us left really, because we felt that we had a certain responsibility. But what's more interesting than that is, usually if you get on the front page of the New York Times or Wall Street Journal, it's not for a mitzvah you did. Sometimes for something negative. And I never got on the Maybe thank God. On the front page of one of those newspapers. But I did get on the front page of the largest circulation newspaper in Israel, the Ma'ariv newspaper. My name was on the front page just before the Six-Day War. There was unfortunately a phenomenon with thousands of yeshiva boys from America in Israel that were clogging the Lut airport to go back home to America. Well, each one of us four, two Americans, a Canadian, and a Brit in the yeshiva in Jerusalem where I was, each one of us separately got a telegram from our parents. No conspiracy. Separately and individually, each one, son, come home, basically. You know, they heard about the American embassy, gave you a second final notice, things are heating up. And so we are four yeshiva boys that the Rebbe sent there. Now we get from Anya, father and mother, get home. So what does a Hasidic person do? He asks his Rebbe, what should he do? He has a moral dilemma. So we all four wrote a telegram to the Rebbe and signed our names. And almost immediately, response came back, another telegram back. And the Rebbe's telegram was printed in the front page of the Ma'ariv. And of course I remember the words. I'll say them first in the original. So we asked, what should we do? Should we stay? Should we go? We can go to London for a few dollars, just wait it out. I mean, because they have a green passport instead of a blue passport. So what should we do? So he said, Yamshichu b'hatmada b'shkida. Continue studying Torah diligently in your yeshiva. Ubevadai lo yanum v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael. And it's of a surety that the guardian of Israel, capital G for guardian, will neither slumber nor sleep. V'yivasru tov, he will hear good news. Why did the Ma'ariv newspaper find that newsworthy to print in the front page? Because everybody knew, even though the media didn't talk about it, that Americans are clogging the airports to run away. It became a problem in the morale of the country. You American Jews, are you with us or not with us? Do you care about us? Are we family? Are you going to leave us here alone? It became a problem in the morale of the Israeli indigenous population and American Jews. This telegram put a different perspective on it. The Rebbe forced in the consciousness of the people, because obviously anybody who was vaguely, indirectly a friend of Lubavitch, of the Rebbe or anything, nobody left the country. After that telegram, no Chabadnik exercised his rite of passage and left. I met two friends of mine in another yeshiva 2 nights before the war. And they said, what are you doing? They're from Miami or from LA. They're going to Mir Yeshiva, another yeshiva. And I said, my Rebbe said, I told them the telegram. He said to stay. So they went to, at that time, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, one of the great lights of the top 10 scholars of the Jews of the world at that time, 1967. Rosh Yeshiva Dean of Mir Yeshiva, one of the Ivy League yeshivas of Jerusalem, transplanted from Mir, in the city of Mir originally. So these two boys went to Reb Chaim Shmulevitz and asked him, this great scholar, the dean of the seminary, what should we do? We're from Miami, we're Americans. Should we stay or should we go? He said, I'm a Rosh Yeshiva. I give classes in Talmud. I have no idea whether you should stay or go. I would never take such a responsibility to tell you whether you should stay and risk your lives in a country that's going to have war or to leave, because you can't. How can I answer that question to you? That's not my department. So they had the chutzpah and they said, we have a friend in Lubavitch. He asked his Rebbe to go or stay, and the Rebbe said, stay. And everybody knows there's going to be war. And he said, the Lubavitch Rebbe had greater places. The Rebbe had broad shoulders. He's taking personal responsibility for the lives of his people. And that's what he did. So Monday morning, we go out to put tefillin on the soldiers like every morning, 8 o'clock. So there's a lot of us yeshiva boys out there. And about 8:15, it starts with machine gun fire. It's small arms fire. 8:15, we hear the machine, but okay, here we go again. We're crawling like snakes, like dogs, in the courtyard, back into the yeshiva. The soldier and the yeshiva boys crawling back into the yeshiva. We didn't know till the radio, this was the beginning, the start of the war. 8:15 Monday morning, at least where I was in Jerusalem. So we went back inside the building, yeshiva building, with the dormitory. There's a bunch of beds there. People ran in off the street. It was a place that's supposed to hold 20, now there's 40 people ran in from here and there. And there's machine gun fire for about 2 hours. But the truth is, nobody was scared because we're in that 100-year-old Mea Sharim building. The stone walls are like this thick. Machine gun fire is not a problem. Everybody's sitting on the floor. We got, we don't turn off the lights. We have all the sandbags in the window. We had a lot of sandbags. And, but 2 hours after the war started, the bombardment of mortar fire started. Things changed radically. Mortar fire is real war. It's very different. It's just basically they're lobbing indiscriminately thousands of these 3-4 blocks where we were, or 3-4 blocks from Jordan, and the mortar bombardment started. That means that from a certain point in time, for maybe 8 hours, every 3 minutes, you heard the following sounds. The first time there was an explosion, it got quiet in the room. And then pretty much every 3-4 minutes, you heard tss, and then it was quiet for 3 seconds. That's the most terrifying time. Because after these 3 seconds are up, there's going to be an explosion. The question is, will you be alive after it? Every 3 minutes, this is, and then in those 3 seconds, you have to kind of, the noise is so loud, it's so terrifying, that you have to sort of make peace with not seeing your family. You have this thing about just before an accident, your whole life. That happened like every 3 minutes. It's very, very unnerving. 2 people among the 40 went insane. It took a while, but 18-year-old boy got very red in the face and just fell down hysterically crying. 42-year-old man started crying. That's 8 blocks away. He has his wife and his children, and the explosions, the bombs. He doesn't know if they're alive or dead. And from the 40 people, we had 1 soldier, sergeant with a pistol. How futile in this situation. And he just walked over to this 42-year-old man, blubbering and talking about his children and about this, and he's hauled off and whammed him across the face. Got it slid across the bed, and he just continued crying quietly. But people are definitely going to flip out with this guy here. All the ugliness of war is pretty apparent when you're in it. So this continued. Then it looks like one of the Arabs that live in Jerusalem, right near us, because they're allowed to live anywhere, although we're not allowed to live in our place, that they say, is theirs. So somebody told the Arabs that there are 3 foxholes here, 4 minutes away, and they should, with 3 mortar guns, they should take them out. So they started every 3 minutes dropping. Now you could hear it far away, hear it a little closer, a little closer. Then there was maybe 3 hours where it was intense. They can't shoot straight. So instead of wiping out this Machanet Tzava with the 3, it fell short on our building. There was a car parked in front of the door of the building. Mortar shell hit the car and the car exploded. It was quiet for a long time in our room. You really didn't know whether you were alive or not. It was that kind of explosion. This was a constant, minute by minute situation that dragged on. This happened from Monday, let's say 10:30 in the morning, until Monday, let's say 3 o'clock in the morning, the next, going towards Tuesday. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, there was a lull in the mortar bombardment, and we also, in that time, took a hit on the roof, and it made a hole, let's say those 4 of those things. Those are 2, another 2 made a hole in the ceiling of the building. You could see the sky and the stars, and you could see that the sky was pink from the explosions of the bombardment, like a light show. And so when it was raining down on us, that's when they took a direct hit, and 2 guys were killed, 2 soldiers, Yaakov Shachar and somebody else. And pretty much they wiped out that emplacement. So that's how bad it was around where we were, really. I was under the same bed with the sergeant with the gun. I mean, hoping that the shrapnel would not go through the bed. Anyway, around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, we hear a noise. A different kind of noise. The noise is getting closer, and there's a lull in the bombardment. So I don't know whether this is good news or bad news. I mean, there's a lull, and then there's a noise. The noise gets louder. We realize the noise is a tank. The problem is we are so close to the border, we don't know if it's our tank or it's their tank. So first everybody said, let's get ready to run or go underneath the beds, because a tank shell could do a lot of damage in our little dormitory room. We didn't have a shelter even. But there were first a few people, and then pretty much everybody decided we're going to peek through the sandbags to see. Because if it's a Jordanian tank, that's not good news. If it's an Israeli tank going towards no man's land, because we're right next to no man's land, that means we're progressing, or we're going towards Jerusalem, towards the old city. So everybody jumped up onto the sandbags and looked through, and as the tank is passing by our window, we see a white sign and a blue Jewish star. It's an Israeli tank, and here the little 30 people started cheering, because we thought they're not going to walk in the door and go bang, 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 because that's what we were waiting for the whole time. We're listening to the radio. The radio's talking about the Golan. The radio's talking about the south, and not talking about Jerusalem. In this situation, it's not known as good news. Why aren't they talking about Jerusalem? Are we losing? Is that why they're not talking about Jerusalem? We listen hour after hour to the radio reports. They're talking about everything but Yerushalayim. Not good news. So we shortly after that, maybe an hour later, Yossi, the Mefaked, this commanding officer of this army outpost with the 3 mortar shells in the foxholes, he comes in and he has a 50 shekel note. That time it was 50 lira, 50 pounds. And he gives it, that's the biggest note you could get, like here, a $100 bill. So he gives a 50-pound note, currency. He says he wants to donate this to a Ner Tamid, this here, to a perpetual light, and it should have 2 names on it, the 2 guys who were killed. And that's what happened. And now it was already like 6 o'clock in the morning. So I said to Yossi, these guys put on film every day. What do you say? just to end off, I have more time, yeah. To end off, that basically the war started Monday. Wednesday, it got quiet. Got quiet enough that it was around the outskirts of Jerusalem, not Jerusalem itself. So I went with some of my friends to the post office to send a telegram to my parents. I'm an only son. Hi, Mom, I'm alive. Everything is fine. I wish you were here. It's not a happy scene here, but I'm alive, and etc. So, as it was, I should have called because that telegram came 2 weeks later because of the flush of telegrams that were being sent all over. Meanwhile, on our way back to the yeshiva from the post office, there was a line. I had to wait 3 hours. A line around the block 3 times to send telegrams to the States that you were alive. So I saw 2 yeshiva boys standing in the middle of an open field in Jerusalem, and I started to go close to them, and they waved me away. So, okay, then they started running around. I shouldn't go closer. Now, one of the miracles of the 6-day war was, in addition to the thousands of mortar shells and the bombardment that the Jordanians rained down on Jerusalem and civilian Jerusalem, it wasn't a war. I mean, that's not a war. A war is between two factions, two armies. They bombarded a civilian city with men, women, and children and civilians. So think about that. So the guys, these 2 yeshiva boys, one with a little beard, they said no, they are guys. So hundreds of bombs didn't explode, of mortar shells didn't explode, but they're temperamental. They can explode if the wind is blowing. So you have to have volunteers to keep away the people. Now, when we in our yeshiva just before the war, they took us over to Hebrew University. They taught us first aid. Because I mean, war is going to happen. If I'm not getting a gun from the army, because the American government said if you bear arms in this war, then you're disqualified from being a citizen of the United States of America. You lose your citizenship. It's called dual loyalty. You cannot bear arms in a war of a foreign nation if you're an American citizen. I think they don't have that rule anymore, but that time they did. So okay, here's the Israelis knocking away there, and we had no idea what's happening. Well, we just, because they were on the edge, all these people. If you heard an explosion, it was a little too close, they started screaming again. No, calm down, no, don't do that. It's very far away, it's not really, it's the Israelis obliterating those people. Okay, so we made the latrine, we gave out the milk and the bread, we lied through our teeth, and it's in a few hours going to be finished the war, and we won. And everybody was happy, and we're just about to leave. It's now like maybe 10 o'clock at night. And on a Wednesday night, the war started Monday, this is Wednesday night, 10 o'clock at night. And right where we were, Gaza, the bombardment started again. Well, the sound of this hysterical screaming of 20, 30 adult women and 50 kids was just about, I decided I'd rather go out there. I am not staying here for this. This is not good. I can't do this. So I went to the door of everybody, all the women are screaming, "Get this terrorists!" Because don't go out, you're gonna kill the people. It's hysterical. So I told my friends, listen, I'm not staying here. I looked out into the chutz, into the, they call it Mea Sharm, 100 gates. What does it mean, archways? The archway leads into a courtyard, and the buildings and the dwelling places are around it. So I even saw a miracle that I saw in the newspaper the next day. If I had read this miracle myself in the newspaper, I don't know if I believed it, but I saw it. When I started to go out into the courtyard to go back to the yeshiva, away from these shelters, I saw that one of the pagazim, the mortar shells, hit a roof on the second story of this dwelling. Second story, it's all track houses together. Very, very overcrowded. So the second story hit a roof, and a fire started. Now all these houses are connected. The whole thing could have gone up and destroyed everything. And so, but in Israel, every roof has something called a dud shemesh, a big barrel full of water, and have solar heating. You turn on the thing, the switch, and the sun heats up the stuff, the water, the barrel, and you can get a hot shower with solar heating. What happened was, the next shell that hit the same spot exploded into shrapnel, and the shrapnel hit into the rain barrel, and it caused a shower on the fire and put out the fire. I read this in the Jewish press a couple of weeks later, and ordinarily I would say, come on. But I saw that. Obviously someone else saw it as well. Anyway, so I told my friends, listen, it's not so bad. Pretty much the shrapnel is pinging upstairs on the roof. We're over here down on the ground. From the shelter to the archway, now it's a huge archway, thick, 6 feet of stone, nothing's happening. That's kind of safe. I'll run into the archway and then run into the street, and take off back to the yeshiva. So I get into the archway, but my friends got trapped into because started getting around, the shrapnel started hitting where we were. My friends got trapped into the next shelter, and there's no way I'm going back into a shelter. The people are not stopping to scream. And I understand that. There's explosions that when this explosion hits, you basically, it's sort of like when you're in the big one, the last big one, you think you're going to die. So these people are screaming their guts out. So I wasn't going back there, and I'm under my archway. Fine, okay, I'll wait it out. Meanwhile, it moved from the street and the chutzner to my arch. Now it starts to get serious. They're chipping away, hitting at the arch. This arch has tons of stone. First I thought, okay, this is safe. Then I thought, I'm going to be buried here and the tons of stone. And then I decided, thank you so much, I'm going to make a break for it. I'm gonna, well, in Hebrew, they don't call it Bashet or Hashgacha Pratit, divine providence from God, but there's an expression, L'chol kadur yesh ktovet. Every bullet has its address. Now here's where all this Hasidic teachings and the Hasidic mysticism and God being involved in the affair, and feeling not only God being distant and exalted, but very close, and because He is involved in the affairs of mice and men, everything is by divine providence, even Hashgacha Pratit, detailed providence. So all of these teachings of years, I decided, well, either it is or it isn't. I mean, that means that it really doesn't matter whether I'm here or I decide to run. Because if I'm supposed to get it here, I'm going to get it here. I'd rather get it running than be buried under tons of stone of this archway that they're knocking away and the chipping and stuff is falling off it. So I went to the other end of the archway that opens up onto the street. Now it's 11:30 at night. It's as light as day. There's a tremendous bombardment, explosions, mortar fire, and it's light as day, and the whole sky is pink with tracers going through. Tremendous light show. But any one of these things could end your life or maim you. And and especially if you see the shrapnel near you. So I walked. I remember having a thought. I'm an only son. My poor mother. I'm not going to tell her this story. I'm not going to get to tell this story. So I thought, okay, listen. The good Lord have mercy. Bashed is bashed. You can run, but you can't hide. I'm not staying here. If it's supposed to be me, and I'll get it wherever I'm going to get it. And I decided I can't be diverted from explosions, mortar shells hitting buildings. It's a tremendous light show, but I'm just going to run without looking about anything that's coming my way and run the 8 blocks back to the place, to the yeshiva. Because Bashar is Bashar. What do I have to watch this video for? So I did it. And I thought, give me another chance here. And I ran and I made it. When I got into the yeshiva, first thing he said to me is, where are the other guys? I'm happy to be here to tell you the story. The other guys are in the shelter back there. 'Cause I didn't leave them in the lurch. Anyway, 3 hours later, they all came back. But it was quite a scene there, especially with the people. Just let me end off the last few minutes. From 1948 to 1967, like I said, no Jews were allowed near the wall. Couldn't be anywhere near it. The first time in all those years that Jews were officially allowed to go to the wall was not right after the war, because the Arabs had mined all the fields leading to the wall. Right after the war, all the older Jews from Yerushalayim who knew how to walk and bypass the soldiers, the Israeli soldiers, go to the wall, went to the wall. And they came back without legs. Because the Arabs put anti-personnel mines. That means it doesn't kill you, it maims you, it takes off your leg, and you'll be a burden to society forever. So that all the hills on the way to the wall, every shortcut, everything that everybody knew was full of mines. The old man brought his 8-year-old daughter, or his 8-year-old granddaughter. 8-year-old girl lost a leg. I decided that if I survived this bombardment, which was quite amazing, I'll wait till they tell me I can go. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not in a rush. So anyway, if they announced it to put it in the newspaper, it would have been such an amazing balagan, that chaos. What happened was that the first night Shavuos, and we were in yeshiva, at 4:30, we were just thinking about going to the mikveh before Rosh Hashanah, and we learned the whole night Shavuos, and we hear a noise, strange noise, and the noise gets louder and louder and louder. We look to the window, it's people. There's thousands of people in like this shuffling noise of people, thousands of people streaming past on the Chov Me'ashurim. Where are you going? The army opened up the wall. They didn't tell anybody till now because it's Yom Tov. On the holiday you can't call anybody and you can't drive there. So they sort of did it to break it in slowly. They told only the locals. So the first Shavuos, first Yom Tov altogether, since 48 was Shavuos, I was one of the people streaming to daven by the wall the first time since 1948. And as it started to get light and we're walking, after we went to the mikveh, you see as it gets light, silhouettes on top of the roofs of all the houses on all the way that we're going are Israeli soldiers holding machine guns. It was very heavily guarded because they didn't want to. That took 2 weeks till they went to the Jews into the Kotel, because that's all they need. God forbid, they said for no reason weren't ready yet, and a sniper killed a Jew on the way to that wall. So they made it safe. Took 2 weeks and a lot of amputees. So I got to the wall, maybe 5 o'clock in the morning, something like that, and it was 2 rows deep at the wall. By the time I finished davening 3 hours later, davening my heart out, it was 9 rows deep. You took a look, turned around to get back to the wall. from two sides was streaming thousands and thousands of people. And it was the first time the plaza had opened. Till then was Arab houses there. But the Israeli army figured out, the government, what's going to happen here? It's the wall. Jews from all over the world are going to come to the wall. They can't have this, 2-0, it's not happening. So they blew up all those Arab houses, but they're made of dust. So it was a white, like off-white grayish dust. So we were all coming, with the yeshiva boy clothes, with the black suits and the black hat. And walking back, everybody's white. Every wall, everybody's hat is like from the dust, because everybody's walking around, thousands of people. And it was all dust, not like today you have balatas, the tiles. But it was one of the better Shavuos davenings, and I have to say I'm very thankful that I'm leaving now to the airport, and this Shavuos hope to be for the second time in my life in the old city of Jerusalem and at the wall. Thanks for listening.
For more information about other Chai Center talks or activities, please visit us at www.chaicenter.org or call 310-391-7995.